Hello and welcome to the Transcendence Succeed Show. I'm your guest host, Megan North. I would like to thank our wonderful sponsors of the show, Quantum Awakening, Voyage of Transcendence, myself, and our lovely guest who paid to be featured on the show today. And talking about my lovely guest, I'm joined by a beautiful and incredible woman who I met about 5 years ago when we were doing a 3-week-long healing course. Robyn Alexandrov is a passionate, holistic mindset life coach, breath facilitator, trainer in energy healing, and a marketing professional based here in Sydney, Australia. Alongside her multifaceted professional journey, she's a devoted mother to twin girls, a loving wife, and an active member of her local community. She's also very much loved by her friends as well. Robyn's approach to life is deeply rooted in her personal experiences, which have shaped her mission to empower others through heart-centered practices for personal growth, healing and transformation. Robyn's story is one of resilience, courage and self-discovery. Born in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, her journey has taken her across continents, from Victoria Falls in South Africa to New York and finally Australia, where she found her home. Along the way, she has faced a multitude of life experiences, from her parents' divorce and navigating her role as the eldest sibling, to experiencing personal loss, a position redundancy in corporate, the challenges of immigration, and moments of self-doubt and self-worth struggles. Having worked in government and corporate for over 30 years, she understands the challenges of a fast-paced, demanding work environment that can lead to distress, burnout, lack of motivation, health and relationship challenges, which take away from having a life of vitality and happiness, which Robyn has experienced. It's through her challenges that have fueled her passion to grow, evolve, and help others uncover their inner strength with heart-centered practices to empower others to find their peace, happiness, and vitality to celebrate life. Welcome to the show, Robyn. I've really been looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you for inviting me onto the show today.
You're welcome. How does it feel when I say your bio and all of the things that you've achieved so far? How does that feel for you?
It's been a long journey, actually, and sometimes I suppose I don't sit and reflect enough on how long it's been and how amazing our experiences of life my journey has taken me, really.
And it's that's why I really love when I go through the bio of all of my guests, because I think it's just really nice for you to just sit there and just listen, as opposed, it's even different to when you're writing it, isn't it? When you're sitting there and you're actually listening to somebody else talk about you, it is a nice moment of reflection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start with the journey that you have been on since being born in Zimbabwe and making it here to Australia. Can you share with us a little more about your journey and what it has been like being an immigrant here in Australia?
Okay. So I was born in Bulawayo, and well pronounced, Megan. I was born in Bulawayo, and I spent the first 5 years of my life in Bulawayo. Oh, actually, at Victoria Falls, for some of it too. So I definitely have the spirit of Africa in me and Mother Earth, and that kind of drives some of my rhythm of today. So when I was 5, immigrated to South Africa. My mother was also born in Zimbabwe and my dad South African. And so had to set up a new life in South Africa. So that, I think, leaving my grandparents, I didn't realize it then, but we carry sadness. We carry sadness from our land as well, and our place of birth in us. So spent most of my years in South Africa. My parents got divorced when I was 7. And that was a big awakening, because my dad was no longer as present as he was, and through a divorce and situation. And so sometimes what happens is, as a young child, we don't have boundaries, and we take on all of our parents' doings. So for me, that manifested in I had major bowel surgery at 7, going through the divorce. And so coming back now into this lifetime, into Australia lifetime, can I now reflect back, going, what I was manifesting there was the abuse that was going on around, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so I was in hospital for a long time and major surgery. So that was a downer for me. And I lost who I was. I had to make new friends again, going to new school, because I had to move to a small apartment with my mom and my sister. So my mother being really resilient, there's always benefits that come out of when we're down, and resilience is one of them. And so we had the love of my mum to support us through this. And, we take on scarcity at that time too, because we had a home, and now we had something small. So, having that and looking at that now, I go, oh, scarcity kind of runs through my lineage. So I need to, well, I don't need to, but I've transmuted that to have, and I see abundance and I feel abundance now, which is, so spent most of my life in South Africa. And then I was fortunate enough to go and actually live in New York for 3 years with my dad. And that was really interesting. I worked for the South African Mission to the United Nations, and exciting times, but also a lot of fearful times. I came back to South Africa because I needed to start a job in marketing. And so I came back to South Africa, and I was living alone with housemates, and just feeling into the insecurity of the what was going around me. There was lots of insecurity. So I picked that up too. So coming to Australia as an immigrant in my 30s, I came in finding this beautiful country. It took me a long time to actually get my visa and actually come. So I arrived in Australia filling out a lot of paperwork. I think they asked in the application form, so where have you lived for the last 10 years? Well, I had to go really back, and it was, I'd been in 3 continents. I'd moved over 27 times. So actually going back to right addresses was quite a big thing for me. So coming to Australia was really amazing. It was the time of the Olympics, 2000.
Oh, wow.
So everything was vibrant, and I'd come with whatever savings I could kind of muster up. I moved back in with my dad at that time, and to save money to come to Australia. So I had, with the South African rand being so low, came with whatever I came and started looking for a job. I lived with my cousin and I do have some family here, but I think I must have chewed off their ear. I was asking them questions all the time. So what about this? What about that? So there was a lot of I had to start from scratch. Finding out how do I move around? Where do I go? How do I go to the shops and pay for this? Opening up a bank account. I remember actually the feeling of, it's so spacious. And I didn't have to worry about when I got in the car, whether I needed to kind of lock the door or keep my window open. I kind of was like, oh, this feels really foreign to me. So, yes, it's, I think what I realized when I came to Australia and have done the work is, I wasn't safe in my body, even though I was safe in my surroundings. In my subconscious, I wasn't safe. And so I was kind of looking and scrambling for work and just trying to make ends meet because I'd only come with my little pot of money, and I had to kind of make ends meet, I suppose. So, what I wanted to say after this is, what happens is you find a job, and I got a great job, and you kind of have to navigate a whole new cultural environment because it's not what you were used to in South Africa, and so the cultural environment in Australia, we have so many different cultures within one organization, which is it's so diverse, but it's also, there can be some, I suppose, cultural barriers to like, oh, okay, you're South African. Well, I don't know. Do I like South Africans? And so in my first job, there was a little bit of friction because they didn't like, there was some people that didn't like South Africans. And so that was a challenge for me. So I had to overcome some of, I suppose, just get on and do it and find my place in belonging, because I suppose being an immigrant, you have to find your tribe and your community, and that takes a really, really long time. And so in terms of settling down and finding a tribe, it does take a long time.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting when you were talking about that feeling of, the safety within Australia? And when you were talking about that, I thought, it's so interesting, isn't it, about what's obvious to some people and then what's ingrained in us as well, in our belief system and what we've grown up. Because when we walk around, I mean, we do live in a pretty safe country here in Australia.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that from an outsider looking in, probably thinking, wow, what a difference for you. Like, it would have been polar opposites of you coming from South Africa to here. But interesting how your belief systems and how you felt inside still gave you that feeling of unsafe.
Yep. It took me a really long time, actually. I actually think Australia is an amazing place to be, and I'm so blessed to be here. I think in terms of finding yourself and allowing yourself to be open and to heal from any past trauma, because it doesn't have that necessarily the cultural kind of diversity that, with South Africa having that kind of apartheid and not feeling safe, it's not here. You don't feel that. So your soul is allowed to be open and kind of free to explore, letting go and learning new ways to become habits and to free yourself, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I was born in Sydney. I was raised just down the coast, an hour down the coast, back into Sydney, and parents that were together. I'm the youngest of six. I've only ever lived in Australia. And so for me, I'm always fascinated with people who come to the country because I am so Australian, it's ridiculous. And this is all I know. And so I love that you're sharing your story because for someone, there's lots of people like me out there that I have no idea. Like, I can't even, I wouldn't want to imagine what happens in all these other countries in the sense of, I don't want to bring that onto myself, but I'm just fascinated because I've just lived this blissful life, I suppose. And so I'm always really grateful for people like you, Robyn, who have the courage and the confidence to actually share the differences, because I think it's really important for us to understand.
Absolutely. I think we don't realize how much, in terms of the stress that we put ourselves on, under, should I say, is when you're trying to make ends meet and you don't really have a whole family kind of network to support you, and you've got this fear of failure, like, I have to make it work. I cannot go back. It's just, that would be just failure. So you've got this, I have to make it work. I have to do as much as I can. And it almost is like, you become the ultimate people pleaser. Now, I grew up in an era where you pleased people. Like, it was the people pleasing era. You had to do what your mother always said, go and do that. Yes, you just do that. You just did that, right? And so with people pleaser, so what was happening is that you had to make it work. So whenever you were at work and a project came up, who wants to do that? I'm going to do that because I need to make sure that I'm indispensable. I'm not going back. I'm going to
Yeah.
make this work. So you almost forget who you are. You lose your values in some respects, and so that can be like draining emotionally and physically and mentally as an immigrant. So yeah, it does play its toll, and I think when I was kind of going through, and I'm just thinking about just my personal experiences in health. I used to kind of get up and my blood pressure used to be so low. I used to feel dizzy and sort of kind of brain foggy in a way. And that's because I wasn't listening to my body. I was just overdoing it, just keep going, going, going. And it's not until actually I was driving one day and I knew I had this pain in my heart. I was like, what's going on? Like, it's stress. And I was like, well, I can deal with this. I can just keep going. I can keep going. And actually, I'm so lucky that I actually went to an event with my cousin and I had Reiki on me and my heart exploded. It was so amazing. These heart practices that you do, breath work and coming back to your heart, I just knew something had to change because I couldn't keep living like this, Megan.
Isn't that's so interesting, isn't it? Because from the culture that you came from to here, that you would have just been thinking, I'm just going to do anything that I can do, whatever it takes, so that I don't have to go back. Whatever it takes, I'm just going to keep putting my hand up, more and more and more work. Because you think, yep, as you said, I'm going to be indispensable. I'm going to be irreplaceable. They can't get rid of me because I take on these things. But then your
Exactly.
health suffers.
Exactly. And what happens is when you work in a position or a company that, has redundancies after redundancies, and you're going, oh my gosh, better keep my head down and just, I'll do that. And so you portfolio that's too big for you, and you have to go, well, I have to put my hand up. It's time now. I just can't.
Yeah.
And you have to rediscover yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So we need to hear from our sponsors, but when we come back, I'd love to touch on a little bit more about you saying that you had that Reiki experience and how your heart cracked open. I think that sounds amazing. So
It was.
Yeah, I look forward to talking more about that. And we'll also hear from you in relation to an offer that you've got for the audience as well. Great. All right.
Thank you, Megan.
We'll hear from our sponsors and we'll come back shortly. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you, Robyn. So, Robyn, before we get into the deep dive about all of the things that we're going to cover today, can you just touch on the audience offer that you have for everybody listening today, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Megan. So I have an offer. It's a 10% promotional offer on any of my courses. And so I believe that with heart-centered practices such as Reiki, or even knowing how to change your mindset and how to go back into your lineage and change the mindsets from your lineage and from other past lives or our soul lives, which really affect how we kind of present in the world today. I'm offering a 10% promotional code.
Beautiful. Thank you for your generosity. So the QR code there will take them to your website so they can use that that code. And I believe also that they can book in just for a discovery call with you as well.
Yes, they can. But if you want a discovery call with me, I'm going to ask you to come with something that triggers you, because it's really, if it's something that somebody has said to you that you're feeling that you're not worthy, or something that's happened, or, it brings something to the table,
Right.
so that we can have an informed discussion about how we can empower you to move forward in your life.
That's great. That's a really good idea, Robyn, because that way then that, you can work with you and find out the work that you do instantly in relation to something that you want to work on. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being so generous. So when you spoke about before that you had a Reiki session on your heart and your heart cracked. So is that the first time that you had experienced Reiki?
No, no, not at all.
Okay.
I had actually trained in Reiki 1 and 2 when I first got to Australia,
Okay.
before I got married. And so it was a beautiful modality of just self-nurturing and coming back to self. And um, it is, in terms of just clearing the energy field, it's and bringing yourself back into balance. It's one of the tools that I like to use on myself, and my clients and my students love it. So when I got married and then had children, Reiki just went out of the window. And so even though I still had the abilities, I went and retrained again. After having that experience, I went to a group session of breath work, and during the breath work, somebody laid their hands on me, and it was just that Reiki experience on my heart that I knew I was not living in my heart. I was living in my head. And so when we're not aligned, and we don't use our breath, then, we can have all of these thoughts and feelings that keep us out of alignment and not live to our true purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. What a beautiful experience for you.
It was
Yeah, lovely.
really.
Now, I know that you're going to talk a little bit more about limiting beliefs a bit later when you touch on the being a theta healer practitioner and trainer. But what were the patterns or beliefs and the feelings that you had through your journey that you started to realize were connected to your upbringing, possibly your ancestors, and how did you work through those?
So thank you, Megan. So just going back through to the beginning of the conversation where I said I had major surgery at 7. And so that came down to taking on beliefs from my mom and dad. And so, there's the beliefs that I had were guilt, rejection, abandonment, resentment, also disgust, and so those were playing out in my life, in what I knew today. And so, also looking at that from a lineage point of view, both my grandfather and my father were policemen, so there was a lot of control. And I remember actually during class, it was like an aha moment while I was studying, and I remember standing, and we do something in theta healing called muscle testing, and where we stand and we kind of find that intuitive feeling of a yes and a no in our body. And so I was just knowing that I was carrying control, and I knew it. I could feel like the sun was beaming on my body, and I could just feel that the question was coming, that I was carrying control from down my lineage. And so it was a definite yes. And as soon as that kind of happened, and in theta healing is also about teaching feelings, and so how to be flexible. And can I just tell you, I used to have a sore neck, and that all just changed. Really remarkable how this work of how our feelings and emotions get trapped in our body. And so when I released that, I don't have neck issues or carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders anymore. I know how to calm my nervous system. I still get stressed. I do. And so I know how to connect, and I know how to use my breath. And so it's really knowing those, where is it coming from? Where are my triggers? That it really is powerful. And to give you an example, I think in working with my clients, we're working on something, and I can see them, they're doing this, and it's their neck is unraveling. It's just, they can feel movement again. They've come with pain in their liver, and after sessions, there's no more pain, or they've got back pain, and it's all this it just transmutes because it's something that their father may have told them, or it's something they're carrying from their mother. You know, relationships just magically kind of work again, you know, where clients go, I don't want to, I think I'm leaving this man. And so we work out where the belief comes from, and it's something from their mother. And we go, well, we'll clear all of that and teach you what it feels like to have a loving relationship. And, you know, I get reports back months after, oh, still magic happening, you know, and it's just lovely how to empower people really, because I think, I suppose we live, I suppose from my perspective, I was struggling. I really had a belief of struggling. And I'm not saying that I don't struggle, but clearly I realized that was one of my beliefs, that I struggle through it, you know. And so when I looked at that and cleared it, things changed for me. You know, I got a good job. I didn't have to work so much. It said intentions. Intentions are really important on how you want to live your life, and go back to your values, because we're worthy and deserving of living a life that we want to live. But we have to clear the beliefs that are in the way, lovingly. Lovingly.
And so did that then completely change the more work you did on that, did that completely change the relationship that you had with Australia? Like, did it shift how you looked at the country and the people? And
100%, Megan, 100%. It actually, I know this is home. I know I'm here for a reason. And I actually had a past life regression, and I was Aboriginal in a past life.
Oh, wow.
And so I've come to walk these lands again. Yes, I can. It's really magical. And so it's also just kind of even widened my perspective in terms of, you know, how, you know, we were Aboriginal and now we're white, and it doesn't really matter. And I remember in Zimbabwe going back a couple of years ago and talking to a beautiful lady there, and I told her the story, and she said, so you were black in a past life? And I was yeah. And she was like, oh, okay. And I, you know, we can't look at people. It's just, we're all one. And so it's really amazing to actually even think that this is possible, you know?
Yeah, how beautiful. What a beautiful gift to give yourself then, for being in a country that then you could truly feel safe and that you could connect with the people here in the land.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Australians and all cultures. It's like a box of licorice, all sorts, really, that we have here, that we get to interact with every day.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? I always feel so blessed because, you know, as I said, like I was born here, my parents, my grandparents, and so I love learning about all different cultures because it just fascinates me of how other people grew up, and you know, I just think it's really beautiful, really beautiful. So you touched on before about the self-worth.
Yes.
So how do you overcome self-worth from a mindset point of view?
Okay. So this comes down to values, and it also comes down to knowing who you are, right? And so, as you said in the beginning of this, when you were reading out the bio, we need to go back and go, what were the blessings in my life and what am I learning? We really do need to show where our true gifts are. And so we need to work out where do we have self-worth issues, right?
Okay.
So my position was made redundant. I had self-worth. So I needed to go back and go, okay, so that clearly was a self-worth issue. They don't want me anymore.
Yeah.
And actually there's benefits to it, but there's also, you need to go through and clear what all of the things, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem. So it's all taking those feelings and beliefs, working where it comes from, and then clearing them. And then when we work in theta healing and the theta brainwave, it's about replacing. So it's like the receptors that you have a feeling of self-worth. So if you don't feel worthy or valued, how do you feel that?
Yeah.
So it's all done in the theta brainwave. So from the theta healing work, even Bruce Lipton, you need to go into a theta brainwave state in order to change beliefs. So it's changing beliefs in a theta brainwave. And from that, you can actually feel worthy and deserving. It's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
You can write it down, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. It can be a mantra, but if you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So it's teaching yourself or your clients, how do they feel confident?
Yeah. And so did you feel that you needed to do work on your self-worth from someone having not grown up in Australia, so from self-worth from where you've come to where you are now? Was that some of the work that you did? So I'm sort of connecting it to, you being an immigrant here in Australia and what your history and your DNA history was.
Yes, definitely, because I think sometimes not sometimes, I think my belief is when we are an immigrant, we try and be somebody that we may not be, right?
Right, so fit in a sense?
To fit in.
Ah.
And to have people, I'm going to put a little L here. I used to be a people pleaser. I'm learning to not be a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But it's when we give too much of ourselves, we don't know who we are too, because we're just giving. So it's also knowing that you have boundaries. You can say no. Lots of my clients don't know the difference between a yes and a no.
Right.
Consciously they do, but subconsciously they don't.
Interesting.
So when you kind of bring it all together and you've got boundaries, you can say no, you know who you are, right? And this is what my worth is. Then you can go and do the things that you love doing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And so talking about then that, do you have an example of a breakthrough or a transformation that a client has had? So I don't know whether it's in self-worth or something else, but what did they come to work with you through, and then what was their outcome?
I have two examples. So
Yep.
a Reiki student recently came and also had back issues, couldn't move properly. And after Reiki 1, she was moving. She was sitting at home, really really excited that she could sit in her comfy chair and enjoy the TV program. In Reiki 2, she came back and we went back and she went back into her lineage and she learned the tools in Reiki. And after doing that, she had the tools to know how to clear her back, and she was really happy. She could move again.
Wow.
So it's going back and just doing, where did it all start? And that's what she did. So that's from a Reiki perspective.
And can I just ask you, Robyn, so is the back about support and not feeling supported and those sort of things?
Absolutely. So our back is foundational to who we are. And so our back is support. And depending where it is, it could be financial support. Our shoulders and our back here is really more about control and you carrying the weight. So back is about support.
Right. Okay.
So she felt supported. She felt supported in the work that she was doing, and she had boundaries, right?
Wow, love that.
In a lot of the work that I do, so as in terms of a breakthrough, another back client, she came and also had back issues, and it was from something that her father had told her, and she worked out that her father said, no matter what you do, you make sure that don't you don't have support from anybody else, really, that so she wasn't able to ask for help. And that's another thing. When you're a people pleaser, you can't ask for help too.
Yeah.
Yes. So clearing that she was able to ask for support and ask for help, and that she worked out that that was the underlying belief, her transformation was huge.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? And isn't it interesting that we, a little bit like what you said before about your heart, you were having, you could feel in your heart, and then these people with neck and back issues. If you're not open to this type of, being open-minded about the emotional healing and that sort of thing, people would just go to a doctor and then often just get prescribed something. Whereas
Totally.
the examples that you've given is a few sessions of some emotional healing, and that you've cleared it forever.
Absolutely, Megan. And I think that I mean, the medical system is amazing.
Yes. Yep.
But I know that when I was in one of my lowest moments, where I wasn't knowing who I was overworking, and I was having all of these issues in terms of my hormonal system, right? So there was just so much going on for me, and the options that they were coming up with were like, you had to have a hysterectomy and all of these things. And really what I needed to is just come back to myself and find myself, know my worth, and then just take the time to relax. Because when you're an immigrant, you don't know how to relax. You have to work all the time.
Course, yeah, because you would just have this constant stress and worry of what if tomorrow I lose my
Absolutely.
job, and what if, and I need to be safe, and okay, interesting.
So as soon as I was able to clear those beliefs in myself, I'm much more present. I'm in myself. I know who I am. So and I think I was talking about this to somebody today, is when you become a mum, you also lose yourself, right? Because you're giving so much to a child, and to then go back into the workplace, it's like, whew.
Yeah.
And you have to look after children and a husband and the home, and so it's a wild journey out there if you don't know how to actually say no. And you don't know how to rest and take care of yourself, and know your worth.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to boundaries as well, is that I think when people don't have boundaries in place, if you're going to start to try and put some, just start small, just do something really little. Don't try to put in a boundary that's so big that could possibly be a really big disaster. I always tell people, experiment with it. Experiment with a friend that you try something small and different, to test and just see how it goes, and then get more confident with putting those boundaries in place.
I agree. I had one client come, and she had anxiety, and so it was a boundary issue. She had no boundaries, so she couldn't even get out of the car to go to the shopping center because it made her feel so anxious. And as soon as we realized that it was a boundary issue and reinstated her boundaries, she was able to go in.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is, because I think we become sponges to people's thoughts, to people's feelings, and that is boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you teach Reiki and theta healing. So why do you teach these modalities? And is there something that you could share, like a simple practice or technique that you could share with the audience that they could take away with them today?
Sure. So the reason why I teach Reiki and Theta healing is I believe these are practices that actually should be taught at school. To how to love yourself, even if just Reiki 1 is actually how to love yourself, how to actually bring yourself back into alignment. If you've had a hard day, or, if you just, or to give it to somebody else. Altruism is to give to somebody else with your heart. There's nothing better than that. So I believe in Reiki, and it also teaches us how to ground and connect into something that's bigger than us. So I definitely believe in practices in your toolbox.
Yes.
Breathwork is the other one. I train breathwork, not as a practitioner, but I also do breathwork practices. And I think our breath is probably our universal life force. We can do so much with the breath.
Yeah.
And there's different breathwork techniques that allow you to, balance your left and your right hemispheres of your brain, just clear your thoughts, right? Because, you've had one meeting, you're going to another, you've got a lot of thoughts going on, and it's really good to clear through breathwork. So there's lots of breathwork practices. The one that I'd like to share with you is the heart math breath practice, which is an easy 5 breaths in and 5 breaths out through the nose, because if we breathe through the nose, we get 10% more oxygen. And that's nice belly breaths too. So expanding our breath like a balloon, as opposed to, that's not, it's really expansive breath work. And even if you just type into Google heart math breathing, there's an app that comes and you just breathe with it. There's so much breath work out there. Just find the one that works for you. But the heart math is really, we need to come back to our heart, because it actually has hormones, and our electromagnetic energy from our heart can expand 5 feet from us. And so when we're in our heart, things shift too, because we are in the present moment. And so that also helps us not think about the past or have fear of the future, and we're not experiencing this moment that we here today, Megan, enjoying this moment together.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And the power of the breath is incredible, because it's something that it doesn't cost you anything and it doesn't take long. Even if you just stop and take one breath in and out, it can completely change the state that you are in. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then with Theta healing, teaching people or teaching students Theta healing is really about understanding what our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, and where the triggers are. And so I grew up in a household of yes and no, or good or bad, or I'm happy or sad. And so it really, this is really amazing work to actually work through where your fears are and how to change your fears so that you are safe and that you can comfortably move forward. Or if you've got a health issue, it teaches you how to deal with health issues, where did it all start? And it helps you connect in with the universal life force, the creator of all that is, and, the earth energy. And it is life-changing, really, really life-changing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so this will be the last official question that I'll ask you, but was there a moment during your transformation where everything just clicked, where your intuition guided you and that you realized that you were exactly where you were meant to be?
Yes, I think it's all come together as 3 pieces, with breathwork, with Reiki, and with Theta healing. I know, because I can sense when things are aligned and when things are not aligned. And so I know that I'm on the right path. And I think it's an inner knowing. I don't think it's one specific time. I mean, I've had many aha moments like, oh my gosh, I've joined the dots. This has happened in my life. Yes, that's why I'm triggered. And so I have the ability to clear myself and others of this so that they can live. Because what do we really want? We want to be healthy, happy. And what is free? What does free mean? But we really want to have free thoughts that we can create anything that we want to, as opposed to scrambling every day going, oh, I have to do this and I haven't done that. And I'm thinking about what so-and-so said a week ago. It's still boggling in my mind. Or, salespeople on the road going monkey mind. Oh, I'm just thinking all these, churning these thoughts and so unproductive when if you can clear them and you're in the present moment, that's where the magic is. That's where life really shows you what you need to do.
That's beautiful. And I love where you said that, like, it is just really a feeling of that inner knowing. It's because it's like everything is aligned and you get into flow and you don't realize that, you may be working on something or doing something and all of a sudden 2 or 3 hours have passed and you think it's just been 5 minutes.
Totally.
That's when I know that I'm completely in flow. Yeah,
it is flow. Life is in flow, and we've come to Earth to experience our feelings. And what feelings do you really want to feel? Because it's in your control to change them. And if you need to know how, I'm happy to show you how, or find somebody to show you how. That's why I believe this work should be taught at schools.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Because it's simple.
So you're not going to believe it, but we actually only have a couple of minutes left. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests before we finish our conversation. So Robyn, can you please share with us your favorite quote and why is it so important to you?
There's 2 quotes. One is, there's more to life. Because I had that. When I was going through my journey, there was like, there has to be more to life. And there definitely is. The other quote is from Karen Lamb, and it's, a year from now, you wish you had have started today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So don't put it off. Find somebody that really that you resonate with to assist you, because we're here to help each other.
That's beautiful.
That you trust. I think that's really important. But you're not alone. There is support. If you need support, there is support.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Robyn, thank you so much for joining me today. And even though we've known each other for a while, it still is truly beautiful to just sit and listen to your story, because I've learned so much I didn't know about your upbringing and all of those sort of things. So I just really, really feel blessed that you've been here today. And I also feel blessed that you are in my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for being in my life too.
You're welcome. And also, I just want to thank all of our amazing and dedicated audience, our supporters and our sponsors. And I hope that you all have an amazing and beautiful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And again, thank you so much, Robyn.
Thank you, Megan. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.